Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
I can't hear you.
What's up, big guy?
Going on, man?
The big day.
Want to turn on the video so you can see the
What I supposed to do today?
You better know your job.
Hey, yeah, I did a great job last night.
Thank you. That was
Oh,
fun.
I see my face.
What's up, big guy?
Can we pin him? The big day.
You haven't keep talking.
Oh, I can see the panelists right there.
Yeah, exactly. Keep talking, Lely, so we can figure out the.
Last night.
Why am I still? There we go. Okay.
You said keep talking? Should I put
Yeah,
my
they wanna
finger
touch-
up? Should I put my finger up? I'm still talking.
I feel like there's a delay. I'm gonna log out. USM Tech is gonna keep you logged in, and we're gonna start late, just so you know.
Late?
Yeah,
Okay.
like probably 10:30.
I thought, oh,
Is that gonna mess you up?
no, it ain't gonna mess me up, but that's when it's supposed to start. I got 10:30.
Yeah, but I mean the whole conference.
Oh, so that means mine would be 11.
Yeah, and I need
Yeah,
Sean to know that too. Does he?
Is it on? Oh, yeah. Don't be shy, lovely people, about coming right up front and getting cozy with each other. Hey, Edna. I know, and it'll look way better for the camera if you're in the front. So come on, phobes. Bring it in. Bring in the love. Ooh, look at this.
This wasn't how y'all was last night. Come on up here. Get cozy.
We're going to have to get Yolanda up here to get the dance party started. Get our blood going this morning. Get people in the room. Up the tempo. Here comes Joy. Joy, come down front. Joy. Come to the front. Come to the front. We're trying to be intimate and loving and build community with each other in this big space.
Yeah, we're trying to have folks come to the front.
A little closer. What's that song?
We want to make it a little more intimate. We family here. You folks coming in, can y'all come to the front, please? Can y'all come to the front? We're trying to make it a little intimate. Thank you. Yeah, right there. Right there is fine. Yeah. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Got some great pictures of him last night. Oh,
Good, good. Okay. Let's do it.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people beyond the bars, Maine. Clap it up. Clap it up. We love you. My name's Erica King, here with my amazing comrade, Cheryl. Ah, that's Charlie, yeah. Charlie, I'm the angel, right?
You're the main angel. Yeah. Yeah. We just want to thank you all for participating in this year's first Beyond the Bars Maine. Yay, yay, yay. Yay, yay, yay. We appreciate it and love y'all for coming out. Just want to give you a little backdrop on Beyond the Bars. We started in New York with the idea that we wanted to bring together the power of university settings, the power of community folks, and the power of those who are directly impacted by incarceration. And so as we try to have an impact on making change, we felt like the combination is critical because all of us have strengths, different strengths, but strengths nonetheless. And so that's the idea of Beyond the Bars, to have, I'm in New England, so I'm not going to say gumbo soup, have a clam chowder soup. Have a clam chowder soup, you know, so that we can all work together and have an impact on the world, actually, because there is a Beyond the Bars Kenya. You know, yeah, there's going to be a Beyond the Bars New Orleans. Yeah. There's a Beyond the Bars UCLA. Yeah. So the model is spreading far and wide, and it's amazing. And we appreciate all of you coming out to support Beyond the Bars Maine. And we foresee this happening each year. And so we hope that everybody stay participated, stay motivated, and stay connected. Thank you.
And I just want to offer a few thank yous. Number one, first and foremost, to all of the Opportunity Scholars in the audience here, inside, and those watching us on the live stream, right? We have folks that are inside watching us right now, some that are going to be presenting with us this morning, joining us for workshops, some Opportunity Scholars that'll be moderating panels, leading sessions in the audience. Please check out the bio, the manifesto of what we're all about, what we're focused on. You're going to hear a little bit about the youth justice work, a little bit about the gender justice work, a little bit more about community justice work, so we can all build collective solidarity together in Maine and beyond, right?
That's right.
All the way to New York, New Orleans, Kenya, and back. Wanted to thank the Miss Foundation, who's here, for making it happen. Miss Shonda Chapman. I also want to thank the Mellon Foundation. I want to thank Jobs for the Future. I want to thank Hometown Health Centers. Every single organization that's here tabling, sort of bringing all the gangs together, as my friend would say, right? Can we all work together towards justice? That's what it's about. Want to shout out Jillian Foley and the USM Place Matters team for the data posters and the Young People's Caucus with the little mics that you see around all day. You'll have our youth right here, right? Youth interviewing you. There's a healing justice space from Arcana. Hope you'll step in there, vibe out for a bit. You can sign up for Reiki or for massage. Just enjoy yourself today. We hope you're fed, nourished, and you go sort of more strengthened in your own contribution towards justice. So, go ahead.
Yeah, one other thing I want to do before we leave this stage, Erica, and I want the audience to participate in this and let the folks inside know that what we do out here is for them. And so on the count of three, let's just go yay. 1, 2, 3. Yay!
That was good for Spence, too, for the photos. Thank you. So, without further ado, I want to call up our next panelists and welcome our moderator, Abdi Awad, affectionately known to us as King Lali sometimes. Where is King La? He should be coming on the screen momentarily. And so I would love to call up our panelists, Noel Vest, Shonda Chapman, Jason Bell, Mr. Sean Libby from Jobs for the Future, also appearing on Zoom, and Miss Victoria Scott. Where are you at, beautiful Victoria? There she is. Oh, Shawnsy, look at that beautiful dome. Everybody, this is Sean Libby. Opportunity Scholars class clown. Dre thinks he's the funniest, but it's really Sean. Oh, you think it's you, Brandon? Love it. Love it.
It's weird, man.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. We're going to do this first panel, and then, we know that time is like a construct of white supremacy, right? So we're taking, again, this agenda is a plan, not a promise, but we will do it. But we'll probably slide into the breakout sessions right after this first panel. So feel free to grab food or whatever you need to do to keep yourself nourished and hydrated throughout the day. And we'll go right into this first panel. Hello.
Keeping myself.
La, take it away.
Thank you, Erica. Hello, everyone. My name's Lali. A little bit. My name's Lali. I'm joining you from Maine State Prison, and to be exact, I'm sitting in my cell. And I am an opportunity scholar with Senior Opportunity Scholars. I'm also a fellow with Alliance for Higher Education in Prison. I am also do work with Face Matters, Color Institute, right in the same university where all you at today. And I'm proud of doing all of that and many other works I'm involved in it. And I will be moderating this panel today. So to just give you a little setup, I will ask the panelists to introduce them shortly, to introduce themselves one by one. Then we'll have one round of questions for each panelist. Then from there on, will be another round of questions. Then we will open to the audience if they have any questions or anything like that. And I just want to ask the panelists if they can hear me clearly, or if it's good, you guys can hear me. All right, perfect. Thank you. So I will start with the guy on the screen with me, a colleague of mine and a friend, Sean Libby, to introduce himself first. Then we're gonna pass it to you, the other four panels that I see that's sitting on the table. So go ahead, Sean.
Thank you, Lali. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Libby, also here at Maine State Prison. Currently a graduate student at Michigan State University, studying youth development, and a manager at Jobs for the Future. Started that job in May, started as an intern last year, and was able to stick around and was hired full-time as a manager in May. Opportunity scholar with some of these fine folks that you see here today, and just love this opportunity that we have working with so many amazing individuals and people and organizations and bringing folks together for events like this. It shows the power of I'll speak to what my boy who's in the audience, Brandon Brown, always talks about the power of stories and narrative change. And I just appreciate everybody being here today. So thank you. I guess I don't know if I'm passing it.
Yep, thank you, Sean. And feel free, whoever feel ready to introduce themselves and just pass it along. Thank you.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Victoria Scott. I am a bachelor's student at the University of Maine at Augusta's PEP program. Sorry, not used to this. Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Scott. I am a bachelor's student at the University of Maine in interdisciplinary studies for justice studies and transformative systems planning with a minor in psychology. I am an opportunity scholar. I am a fellow with the Alliance for Higher Education in Prison, and most recently a project manager on our Education in Action Field Guide Construction Initiative. And normally, I am currently incarcerated at the Southern Maine Women's Reentry Center, but today, I am liberated through my community, and I am here in connection with all of you. So thank you all for embracing me and for empowering this opportunity to connect and to talk about these very important issues. Sean?
Thank you. That's hard to follow.
Yeah.
I have faith in you.
Thank you. I feel so supported. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. That's what I like to hear. My name is Shonda Chapman. I am currently the Director of Innovative Grant Making and Research at the Ms. Foundation. But more importantly, I am a Beyond the Bars alum. And I worked with the Center for Justice, co-directing Beyond the Bars Fellowship for many years with my colleague Cameron Rasmussen, Cheryl, Kathy, Greer, Natalie, and the fam. So, you know, Beyond the Bars is one of the most important things that I do. I'm always really honored to still be included. It's one of my political homes. It's one of the places that I learned the language to really locate myself, to really understand myself in the context of the world, and to really understand the work that I was supposed to be doing in the world and the communities that I was supposed to be doing that work on behalf of. I am also a student. I am working on my PhD, thank you, in social welfare at the City University of New York's Graduate Center. I am someone who identifies as a parent. I'm someone who identifies with many of the experiences that push people into systems of criminalization, including sort of being a survivor of violence. Yeah, so I'm overwhelmed sort of with gratitude with the opportunity to be here and looking forward to really diving into the conversation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Noel Vest. I'm assistant professor at the Boston University School of Public Health. I come by way of graduate school at Washington State University and a postdoc at Stanford University. But before all of that, I was a student in a college and prison program through the Community College of Southern Nevada. And today I get to do a whole lot of really fun and cool work. I do a whole lot of really not fun and cool work as well, but for the most part, you know, I get to split about half my time for the really cool, fun, and cool stuff. And so this is definitely one of those very fun and cool times. And so I'm really excited to be a part of this panel. I want to thank Sky, and it was so great to see Cheryl. I haven't seen her in a while now. And Lali, it's really good to see you as well. And so I'm just really, really excited to be here, and it brings a huge smile to my face, but I'll try not to smile the whole time.
Did you have to push it? No. First of all, thank you all. Thank you, Maine, for allowing me in your space. I really appreciate it. My name is Jason Bell. I come to you today as an adjunct professor in criminal justice and sociology at San Francisco State University. So I made a little trek to get here, but loving every minute of it. And I'm the executive director at San Francisco State for Project Rebound. Some of you may know that and be familiar with it. Started from the late, great John Irwin in 1967. And I'm the director of program development for the entire state of California. We have now, we now expanded to 20 CSUs in California based on that work that we started at San Francisco State. But more than that, I was a rebound student first, so I started my journey as well behind the prison walls in some of the ugliest places California had to offer. But I am glad to be here today to talk a little bit about that journey from there to now. So thank you all.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. I'm really honored to moderate this panel. And thank you. One thing I mentioned about my introduction, I'm also an alumni of the University of Southern Maine. I earned my master's last year from that school. So shout out to USM. So I'm gonna start the first question. The first person I will start with is Jason. My question for this round, Jason, as a professor, community leader, and someone who has dedicated his life to understand the motivations of crime, punishment, and our legal system, can you tell us what have you learned in your journey, and what you believe is the biggest misconception of crime and punishment in our greater community and society?
Oh, the biggest misconception. I definitely believe in respect to that. I actually designed a course around this stuff, is that there's this belief in all the voices of the past as far as criminology experts, that there's a criminal type and everybody else is different. It's not that we're all capable of making mistakes. So this misconception that there's this monolith of the criminal type versus the non-criminal type is a part of the problem, because there's vast differences in people's experiences, and that exclusion of context in those experiences, especially when it comes to that courtroom, is where we fail. I mean, not being able to include all of that life context in that space. You know, there's this black and white. You break the rules, you're wrong. If not, you're right. That's not how human beings function, and I think that's where we fail. We got to really do better at being inclusive of all of that context. In class, sometimes I talk a little bit about, there was a safe zone in San Francisco called the Ella Hill Hutch Center. And in that space, you know, there was a shooting in the gym, but the newspapers went crazy. City in turmoil, no safe spaces, and that stuff is scary to read about. And in the courtroom, that stuff carries over. So that this youngster that used a gun in what was a traditional safe space is scary for people. I understand that, and I'm not by any way. I'm not like supporting that, but in understanding, getting the block report from the neighborhood and finding out what the details were, I felt a little different. And I don't think that stuff finds its way in the courtroom. So, in essence, a 14-year-old has a sister he's trying to protect, and there's a 19-year-old that's abusing his sister, and he's trying to tell him, leave my sister alone. He can't outright whoop him or fight him, and he's already believed that the system in many respects has failed him, and there's, you know, unless something is happening immediately, you can't do much. So, you know, he tried and tried, and again, it just got worse. So this guy ended up really battering his sister, sexually assaulting his sister, and the only place that he caught him was in that gym, and he shot at him. So all of that was missing. It was just about this youngster using a gun in the gym. So context matters when it comes to human beings, and I think we fail if we don't include that. So that's just my 2 cents on the matter.
Is it okay if I build a little bit on that? I was getting excited when you were talking. I was over here snapping in my mind like, yes, exactly, exactly. But then I think a lot about the ways that our understanding of crime and punishment is both race, gender, and constructed. And I see it a lot, especially when we sort of add gender to the analysis. And when you look at, say, youth, you can see the ways that we just construct what constitutes criminality through things like status offenses. So behaviors that wouldn't ordinarily be criminal are just, now they're criminalized because we want them to be. So you can criminalize people for skipping school. You can criminalize behaviors like sort of ways of dressing. And those things push people directly into the system. We think about it if we expand our conception of carcerality to include the sort of family punishment system. So things like not being able to pay for your children's lunch is criminalized. So, you know, essentially we're criminalizing poverty. And so, you know, I think that, you know, even just beyond the binary of what's real and what isn't, we start to understand that people get to be criminalized essentially because they occupy certain identities, their race, their gender, their disability, sort of in each layer of additional marginalized identity sort of makes you more vulnerable. And so in the ways that we can understand that all of the shit is really actually made up, then we can actually start to understand that, you know what, we can also make up solutions, you know, and we can think beyond sort of what is prescribed for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, and thank you adding on that, Shonda. My next question is actually for you. So, women and girls incarceration is a topic that needs more open discussion, and your work on this is crucial. Based on your intensive work, why do you think this issue is often overlooked? And what have you learned that is driving the significant increase in women's incarceration? And beyond gender, what role does race play in women's incarceration?
First of all, thank you for that question. Like, I love it when I have panels where I'm like, oh, so what you asking me to do is talk my shit? Oh.
Talk your shit, girl.
Okay. And normally, you know, I end up being in these conversations that are super important, but boring and really don't take us actually anywhere. Like if I have to tell people any more times that organizations need flexible general operating funds, I'm just gonna fall on my face and like just roll on the stage. That's the answer, philanthropy, flexible general operating funds, less reports, no site visits. But as it relates to your question, I think that the reason why the issue is overlooked is that we inherently hate Black girls. That we inherently hate Black women. We inherently hate women. Thank you, thank you. No, we can just go ahead, everybody, thanks. Thank you. We don't like women in this country, and I think that it's very evident by our current social and political context. Like, so much of the political conversation is really sort of based in what to do with the problem of these women who won't behave. What to do with these women who think that they can control their own bodies. You know, what to do with these women who think for themselves. And it starts super early. And so you see it in schools where you see things like, what do they call the girls who don't behave? They call it oppositional defiance.
Disorder.
Speak for yourself is exactly what that means. Like if we were to translate it to another context, it's like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, is what the children are saying. But if we were talking about Hannah or Rebecca or somebody at an elite institution, we would be looking at the behavior and calling it leadership, right? If we were talking about Chad or Matt or Vic, we would be calling that behavior leadership. And so to my earlier point about the fact that this is constructed, it's so much for me now, it's so clear that it's about who we think we can control. And sort of for me, all the roads really do lead back to capitalism. And I would have never said that before. I used to think that I was like, these Marxists, they crazy. Like they got a little bit of a point, but they really take it far. And ultimately though, it's about how do we have workers who don't question. And so, you know, when you sort of, you know, narrow it down to its least common denominator, we need a group of people who will work for us, who will not ask no questions, who will make the babies, and that is it. And what we do is the ones that we don't think, you know, one, we don't have jobs for, we're gonna take them all the way out of society. But the other ones, we're gonna get them in order, and we'll do that by criminalizing them. And so I think that was a long, around the way sort of answer to your question. But for me, it is like, yeah, I think we have to think a little bit further, sort of, right? I think we, you know, especially in the US context, get very stuck on what criminalization looks like here. But it's much broader and it's much wider, and I think that it's actually in sort of these conversations, we have to start to expand our analysis, right? Because they want us to just be stuck here talking about violent versus nonviolent. And these are really important conversations, but we don't get to the wider sort of causes to why certain people are impacted disproportionately, how it starts, what are the subtle mechanisms that sort of contribute to incarceration and criminalization. And yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. And for the audience, you heard the different responses, diverse questions, because of the gift of the panelists, who each of them have a different work, diverse work. So please bear with us. And my next question is for Noel, Dr. I'm gonna use the doctor because he earned that, so I have to use it. Dr. Fest, your education journey has shaped your professional work. Could you share how it has influenced you and why you chose to focus on substance use disorder? And how does that relate to the incarceration pandemic that we face in the United States?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay. Thanks for the question, Lolly. So honestly, I think with that question, if you ask pretty much anybody in any position that they're in, like questions around like why they got the job that they did, or what inspired you to become a doctor, or what inspired you to do the work that you're doing, it's almost always some kind of personal history. So, you know, I asked my doctor the other day, like, why did you become a doctor? And he said he lost his mom of cancer at a very young age. And so he just had became inspired about that. And so I don't think it's out of the norm to really kind of have your life be kind of your perspective and your life be shaped by your lived experiences. And so, and that's definitely been the case with me. I think, you know, early on when I was in prison, you know, my first, and again, looking back at this in hindsight, this is probably like qualitative research, right? I wouldn't ask people like, why are you here? Like, what crimes did you commit to be here? But like, what happened in your life? Like, why are you here? And almost always the answer, I would say at least 90% of the time, was either untreated substance use disorder or untreated mental illness of some kind or trauma related to growing up. And that just kind of became a theme that I heard over and over again. It was actually a little bit reassuring to me, because it was like, you know, you get to prison and you think you're the problem, but, you know, hearing other people's stories, you hear kind of a commonality of, you know, that really kind of these systems are set up for many. You did a great job of kind of laying that out. And I would add addiction to that as well, right? The war on drugs. You know, people that are addicted in this country, I was never offered treatment. I was never offered, you know, any kind of solution to my problem the entire time. And so, and I think, honestly, the way that our system is set up, I was talking with Peter on the drive up here, you know, the only time the system really cares, the only time the police really care about someone that's addicted is when they die, because then they can use that as a tool to prosecute someone else for the crime of murder. And so I think that, you know, just again, these are all things that you, in hindsight, I think they all kind of shaped my perspective. And so as I was getting close to getting out of prison, you know, I had really no idea what I wanted to do with my life. But I think, you know, with my own recovery, I was just inspired just a tad bit enough. I had done well enough in the college and prison program, you know, that the first day I got out, I, you know, went to the community college in my area and showed up wanting to be a drug and alcohol counselor, because I had no idea what else to do, because that was the only career path that I had heard of. And I really expected to get on the on-ramp right there and get off at the next off-ramp of being a drug and alcohol counselor. But I got on that on-ramp, and, you know, as people here can tell you, there's something magical that happens to you in higher education, you know, especially with those experiences that we've had. And there's this transformation that happens. It's not just a transformation like you're learning new things. It's like a transformation within your like being, and you really become inspired. And so I met a lot of really great mentors. I had a lot of really great help. I had a family that really, really supported me. But, you know, I wanted to learn as much about addiction as I possibly could, because I really, truly wanted to understand my own journey in a better way, and that just turned into a career eventually. And so I didn't know, and if I would have told my wife that I wasn't going to get off the off-ramp for another 14 years, she would have said, no, you're absolutely not doing that. But, you know, I'm really, really glad that I did, because, like I say, I have a career today that I, again, never thought ever imaginable, but it really did start out very simply with wanting to learn as much about addiction as I possibly could.
Noel, that process you're describing, sort of around that transformation, it's so healing.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was super healing to be able to sort of, to one, sort of understand myself, but then to understand the sort of forces that the people in my community, the people in my family, that they were, like, it allowed me to have so much grace to sort of be to hold, you know, and like, I'm a really big theory nerd. Like, I will sit and read and read and read and read. One of the, have you read Mbembe's Necropolitics?
No.
Oh, I'll tell you. So there's a theorist, Nkili Mbembe, who hoped to explain why certain people lead these, sort of slow, sort of short lives that are less autonomous, that are often filled with like illness and death. It certainly was an analysis of capitalism, but looking at sort of these underlying mechanisms that push us to do the things that we do. So things like addiction, so substances are really to sort of be able to deal with sort of the oppressiveness of our society. So to be able to deal with sort of capitalism, to deal with the sort of unnatural way that we are forced to labor. And it really did help me understand like so much of the behavior that's criminalized in my communities, in my family, and some of the things that they were doing were really resistance. They were really sort of resisting these structures that were forced on them. And sort of to be able to understand it in that context really sort of shifts the blueprint about what's next, right? So then if I understand that, like, ultimately, through that particular theory, if, capitalism is meant to sort of suck out my life force by forcing me to just go and labor, then the decision to not do that is resistance, right? I mean, it's important, right? So the decision, like, even if what I'm doing is getting high, like, if I'm rolling up a little piece of something after, it's meaningful to characterize that behavior as resistance. Ultimately, we have to decide what works for us and what doesn't and how to resource ourselves. But that paradigm shift in behavior, sort of understanding behaviors as resistance to capitalism, and as resistance to sexism, like it's magical. And so for me, education, sort of being able to sort of immerse myself in theory, like, and it makes us understand why people don't want us to have it anymore. So just to add, I got inspired by what you said and wanted to make sure I added that little piece.
Thank you, absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry, this is for you. This question is for you. You have been part of advisory boards, fellowships, including the one with the Alliance for Higher Education in prison. Can you talk about some of the projects you have been part of, your proudest moment, and your aha moment, and how in your personal and professional life these moments have prepare you post incarceration? Yeah.
Oh gosh, so many proud moments. I think almost all of the opportunities and all of the doors that have opened to me have led to these very sort of victorious and fulfilling memories that I'll always cherish because they did not exist before these pathways were forged by incarcerated people, by incarcerated scholars, advocating and connecting and forming these social and professional career networks, being able to actually access what was formerly withheld and inaccessible in these exclusionary circles that were beyond our imagination. So, I mean, just running off a few from the highlight reel. I think definitely the first MDOC debate team with the NPDL up against MIT, where we won in a sweep 5-0 in a mixed cohort team, where we were able to bring together men and women from 5 different facilities with varying security levels to be in the same room and to get that group hug afterwards when we won. That was a big deal. That was knocking down so many walls all at once. Engaging with Colby College's Freedom and Captivity programming, being able to facilitate those courses to ask people in the community, what is harm? What is crime? Are they different? Why? And asking people what victimhood and survivorship means, what trauma is, and are there any perpetrators who are not previously victimized based on their own life experiences in disadvantageous marginalization, whatever their positionality was. And how do we recover from that? Is the PIC, is the prison industrial complex actually giving society a return on its investment? Nah. So, and the fellowship work is fulfilling for me every day, being able to present on panels with actual MDOC administrators and to go to events. Hey, Erica, shout out. That's my education coordinator. Having this level of support from the Maine Department of Corrections to be able to attend these events, speaking on panels together about how we collaboratively innovated and reimagined what corrections education and connection to the community and involvement and public service looks like, what civic engagement can be for incarcerated people, that's a win because it sends a message to every other facility and administration and to society as a whole that we can't do this alone on either side. Facilities, institutions, administrators cannot do this by themselves, and us as incarcerated folk cannot do it by ourselves. And it takes us coming together to be able to figure out how to respond rather than to react to issues of security, to issues of disparity, and to be able to build new bridges into a future that's brighter and better for everyone.
Thank you, Tori. And thank you for leading the path for us and speak on it. The opportunities and the support and the work that needs to be done. And last but not least, on this round, Sean, this one is for you. As an incarcerated scholar and employee, your collaboration with Jobs for the Future is sending an important message to the other institutions and employers. Could you elaborate on this message and the roles of the Jobs for the Future in advocating for inclusion of the knowledge and experience of justice-impacted individuals? And what have been your personal experiences as an incarcerated employee?
Thank you, Lali. So, yeah, it's been an interesting road with this whole employee while incarcerated thing, and being kind of one of the first people to be able to kind of chart this path. When we first got the go ahead to apply for like internships to help pay for grad school, it was like, I don't know, a lot of people might not know, like Pell Grants don't cover grad school. So it's great that we were given the opportunity to move forward with our education and go to grad school. Again, I hate doing this, but I'll shout out Brandon Brown for paving that way for grad school in the Maine DOC in general, really opening those doors up to be able to do that remotely. But the question was always like, how do we pay for it? You get a lot of no's when you're applying for scholarships, and people in general get a lot of no's, but people in prison get a lot of no's, probably a lot more no's. So these opportunities opened up by our former commissioner, Deputy Commissioner Ryan Thornell, our Commissioner Liberty, to move forward with actually applying for internships. And the first internship I applied for was at Jobs for the Future. Went through a pretty, I won't say stressful, but yeah, stressful, especially having never done this before. Application, interview process, sitting down with people and actually doing an interview and getting hired. I think that was like, kind of the first step in JFF sending that message, was like the fact that I was in prison, the fact that I have a criminal record, the fact that I'm a felon, all those things didn't matter. And, they weren't hiring me because I'm incarcerated. They weren't hiring me because of those things. They were hiring me because I stood out as an applicant, because of my experiences, because of my education. JFF is a fair chance employer. They don't do background checks. They hire people based on merit. I think that kind of stuff really leads the way. Right off the bat, one of the first things I was able to do as I got hired at JFF was, if you go to jff.org, you'll see mine and others. There are blogs written by myself talking about my experiences in higher education and prison. Other formerly incarcerated individuals writing blogs that are on their website about their experiences. So, just giving that voice to people we have JFF puts on a large conference every year called Horizons. Look for it this coming June. It's going to be in New Orleans on the 10th and the 11th. But it's like thousands of people show up to this conference from around the country, from around the world. And my first Horizons was like literally my first week as an intern. And like I was on, like I am now, I was on a computer screen, but literally just on a laptop being passed around tables in a conference room, talking about my experiences in higher education and prison with people who were just starting with the Pell Grant expansion and starting their higher ed and prison programs, and like asking me questions. Like this is my first time like having this experience of like people looking at me as almost like a subject matter expert, like asking for my input on, you know, higher ed and prison and experiences of students and things like that. And this past year, we just had ours, just a few months ago, our most recent Horizons conference. I moderated a panel with our commissioner, Randy Liberty, and the commissioner from Colorado, one of our teammates on our debate team that whooped up on MIT, Chandler, he was on that panel, and another formerly incarcerated individual from Colorado, who was, as far as we know, we don't know for sure, but he's the first adjunct professor. He was hired as an adjunct professor through Adams State University while he was incarcerated. He was teaching college classes through their higher ed and prison program. So I moderated a panel discussion at Horizons with a packed room full of people talking about these opportunities of incarcerated people, higher education and prison, what those opportunities do, employment opportunities. They both, Chandler and David, were the two of the first people to ever have these opportunities in prison to actually work an actual job, you know, paying taxes, doing the whole thing. So, you know, JFF giving those opportunities to people. And at that conference, we had what we called our Horizons Fellows, which were, I'm trying to think of the number off the top of my head. I think it was about 8 to 10 Horizons Fellows, all formerly incarcerated folks, just going around Horizons as a conference and talking to people and kind of talking about some of our initiatives and just being a voice for formerly incarcerated individuals. And, you know, those kind of things I think are what open the door up for and lend voices to formerly incarcerated people, currently incarcerated people. We have another one. Tori's going to be a part of a panel next week that we're putting on for higher ed and prison folks in Minnesota who are working to start their, you know, get their higher ed and prison going and expanded for our Fair Chance to Advance initiative on education, employment, and, you know, my coworkers and I were like, we need to center the voices of the people who have been impacted by this, who have done some really amazing things in the higher ed and prison space and employment space. So we're bringing in folks like Victoria and other 3 other folks from the Maine DOC to speak about their experiences. And I think that's, you know, key is like getting these voices in front of as many people as we can. And then I think JFF just kind of talking the talk and walking the walk with the whole Fair Chance employer. They have a Fair Chance corporate cohort where we have an employer change team within our Center for Justice and Economic Advancement team, that's where I mainly work with our Center for Justice and Economic Advancement. And like we train, I've been in meetings where like I look at people's names and it's like their name and they're from JP Morgan Chase or they're from this company or that company, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? You know, it's so weird, but they're talking, they train companies on their Fair Chance hiring initiatives and helping them become better Fair Chance employers and do these trainings. And we're developing a training for higher ed institutions around so that colleges and universities can learn better and be better Fair Chance hiring institutions. You know, we know it a lot with higher ed and prison, and unfortunately here in our own state, it's like sometimes it's hard. You know, they wrap their arm around you when you're in prison, when you're part of the program, but you get out and it's like, man, maybe don't come on campus. Maybe we won't hire you for a job. And so trying to do things like that. So I think those are some of the things that JFF is doing and that I've been able to be a part of. and those are some of my experiences, opening those doors up and having those doors opened up for me has been this last year or so, year and a half almost now, has been like literally life changing. And being able to do some of the things I've been able to do, I never thought I'd be able to do. And I'm so appreciative for JFF. I've interviewed people. I've interviewed. I went from being the intern to interviewing this summer's crop of interns, and had formerly and currently incarcerated folks in those interviews. I was on a hiring panel for managers to hire for our Fair Chance to Advance initiative, and like just being in those positions and talking to people with these experiences in other areas in other states, it was incredible. It's so hard to like really put into words what this has really done for me, and being able to do what I can to help lend voice to other people and bring other people into the fold to let their voices be heard and their experiences be heard, has been amazing.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate the sharing that experience, and each one of you really touching on different perspective of it, of the incarceration system. And my next question, before we pass on to the audience, in case they have any questions, there's no particular way of answering this question. Anyone can, no particular order, anyone can answer. Each one of you has shared a different background, personally and professionally. In no particular order, either one of you can answer this question. Why do you think there is a big gap between how states differently deal with and address rehabilitation and reintegration after the community member is incarcerated? Please feel free to reflect on your opportunities and the programs available in your own home states compared to the other states you are familiar with. For instance, here in Maine, where we are today, you can see that we are assuming from prison cells as in the panels and in the moderator. So why do you think those differences exist in different states? And like I said, take it away. Anyone who feel ready to answer it first, no particular order.
Okay, I'll dive into that one because this is a very kind of emotional one right here. But I kind of honestly feel that we have like a $81 billion investment into an assumption. You know what? Because I mean, I've never done the immediate research, but I can probably assume that even in this room today, that no one has ever agreed on why this $81 billion investment in the mass incarceration process exists. Like, we can't put our finger on it. Like, is it retribution? What do they call it? Deterrence, incapacitation, or rehabilitation? I bet you, like, and also probably depending on where you're at in your life, you may say you have a different answer in this one room, let alone through various states. And I think that's a huge portion of the problem. And sadly, we're kind of all guilty of it. I mean, $81 billion, those are our taxpayer dollars, partially invested in this thing that we don't even know why. So I think that I can't speak specifically on Maine, but I do know California is a mess, and I think we definitely have to do better. So getting to the end all be all of why we're invested so much in it, I think is a portion of that variation between states. You know, one of the immediate fixes, I think.
Yeah, I can give it a little shot. So I've been in 4 states now, right? So I've been in, I was incarcerated in Nevada. I was released to the state of Washington. I was moved down to Palo Alto for a few years. So I've lived in California, Washington, and now Massachusetts. And the only thing that I can really do is with each one of those places that I'm in, I can pinpoint the good things and talk about that in the other states that I go to. And, like I say, even the stuff that's happening in Maine right now is incredible. I've talked with Lali, I've talked with many other people in the state of Maine, by Zoom. I mean, that's just like unheard of. It doesn't happen in any other state. And so like just to even be able to do that. And so wherever I go now, if I'm around departments of corrections, if I'm around lawmakers, I talk about it. Like there's no reason that what is happening in Maine can't happen in your state. I mean, they've proven that it can happen. And so, and you know, they have an incredible community college system that goes into the prisons in the state of Washington. But there's prisons that are left out. If you don't happen to be at one of the prisons that has a community college nearby, you're left out. And so where they do it, they do a great job. There's a lot of work to be done there as well. Same with California, right? I mean, if you're lucky enough to be at San Quentin in California, like you have all the resources at your disposal. You have many, many college and prison programs. They got the Mount Tamalpais College in there. And there's some good pockets where they're doing really, really great stuff, but it's not happening at every prison the way that it should. For sure. Obviously, Project Rebound, obviously Underground Scholars, obviously all of these incredible programs, Rising Scholars, right? I mean, they're doing incredible things. And so the best thing that I can do is any state that I'm in that I don't see doing it right, I think with the state of Massachusetts where I'm at now, it's really difficult because there's been such a huge, and this is a great thing. This is what we want to see everywhere, right? They've reduced their prison population in half. But that means that there's college students in those college and prison programs, and all they're seeing is that they're losing their college and prison programming, or one's being taken out or one's being reduced. And so, like I say, it's I just try and talk about the good things that I see. And so while it is great that Massachusetts is reducing their prison population, they also need to figure out how the college and prison programs that are there cannot be forced to kind of like fight against each other for students. And so, and I don't have an easy answer for that. I just basically, I'm really good at pointing out problems and complaining about them. But I don't really have great solutions because I realize that, a great example of that is California. I mean, they're trying to close that prison in Susanville. Oh my gosh, you'd think that they were trying to shut down Harvard, because it just is like the community is outraged. And that's one prison. Can you imagine trying to shut down more prisons in the state of California? It's just, these are very, very much structural and systemic problems that don't have really great solutions for, especially in a capitalistic society. So,
I really, really love this question, Lali, because it makes us really sort of think sort of beyond the bounds of geography. And so, quick story. I used to work at the Vera Institute for Justice, and I remember a moment where there was sort of some exchange programs between people who were working on mass incarceration and criminalization here in the US and people who were doing that very same thing in Scandinavia. And so when you sort of look at those countries, they have really sort of innovative and liberal approaches to thinking through the problem of how to include people back into community, sort of what humane sort of conditions look like. And so they were taking people over there to sort of learn from them. And interestingly enough, when I think about what's happening in Maine and how sort of innovative and how liberal and like, it's amazing that I'm sitting here sort of next to you, right, and that I'm on Zoom sort of with you, Lali. And then I think, well, what's similar between Maine and those countries in Scandinavia? Audience, what y'all think is Hello, friends. Look at y'all. Quick studies. Right? We can do this where there's lots of white people, of course. And no shade. Like, honestly, it should be done, right? But what I'm saying is, like, we know the answer to the question, right? We keep asking questions we know the answer to. You know, when you think about, I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Kentucky, I've lived in Texas. My family is from the Mississippi, hey friends. My family is from the Mississippi Delta. And, you know, absolutely, like if the southern states didn't want to expand the New Deal to include, you know, people who were agricultural workers and people who were domestics, what does that tell us about sort of the mass incarceration system? They want to protect their way of life, right? Those states have a direct connection to the legacy of slavery, as does incarceration and policing in our, so, you know, I think to some degree it's like I love to answer the question because I just have a reason to say it out loud and that feels good. But I think we know the answer to this question. And so, again, to my earlier point around expanding our analysis to really think about capitalism and what shapes capitalism force us into, like when I think that when we tie our, like, you can never fault somebody for wanting to live, Noel, right? So when you think about why these communities in California would be up in arms about the closing of a prison, they're not responding to the closing of prison. They're responding to the closing of their sustainability. Yeah. And they're, right? It's like the closing of their paychecks. Yeah. Is right. What, and I respond to the closing of my paycheck with Absolutely. Sort of similar anxiety and concern, right? And so until we like untangle sort of the economic sort of component and the ways in which, you know, that sort of undergirds like all of the things that are connected to it, then no, we don't actually get it. So it's like it sort of sits. It's a really nasty, gnarly thing that really sits at the intersection of sort of race and gender and sort of and capitalism and economics. And so much of the work I feel like has to be done in spaces like this. Sort of understanding that and really sort of being in conversation with community around the ways that it impacts all of us and the ways that impacts their future and the future of their children, because that machine feeds on our young people. It feeds on the people in our families. And we will have to continuously feed it, right, with people and lives. And so until we realize that, until we have a language for it, I feel like we don't actually get the people who are invested in doing things differently.
Thank you, first of all, for saying all that. Like, I'm just sitting here trying not to scream, preach, girl. I am so excited to be a part of this conversation, and I feel like, as you know, Jason initially commented, I think on a national scale, the prison industrial complex has what organizational behavior classifies as a role uncertainty issue, which makes it ineffective in any of its ventures. So, first and foremost, as a society, we have to define what the purpose of prison or corrections is. What investment are you making and what kind of return do you expect to see? Because you can't have all of it. You can't have it be punishment and rehabilitation and deterrence. You know, discipline and punishment do not live in the same space. That's the difference between addressing someone and helping them to grow through love and redirection, and just wanting to be punitive and perpetuate trauma cycles while you're traumatizing yourself as a perpetrator. So I think that that's important to really discuss openly as a society and to define what we really want to be spending these billions of tax dollars on, because currently I don't think we're getting our money's worth. I don't know about you. And beyond that, what we've been able to do in Maine has been amazing. I am so grateful, and I feel not necessarily fortunate to be in prison, but I feel blessed to be in the prison system that I'm in, that has been able to experience this tremendous level of growth and transformation and evolution within such a short period of time. Because when I began my journey, the women did not have a matriculated degree program from the higher security facility. I was told to wait initially when I inquired with my administration about enrolling in college. Wait until you get to pre-release, and that would have meant waiting 6 years for me. So I reached out to our central office administration and said, please help. I got all the time in the world, and I don't want to waste a moment of it. I need to build myself into who I'm trying to be now. And they supported that. They responded. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, it was not easy participating in online classes with no internet access. That's how I began. Textbooks in a cell and maybe an hour of supervised access with a blue HDMI cord hooked to the wall about a week. And we grew from there. And, you know, when I made grades and I did well, they saw what I was able to do with nothing and said, well, what if we gave her a little something? What if we made an investment in this? Let's see what she can do. And then after my next semester, you know, grants were made and partnerships between nonprofits and the DOC, and they opened up the first cohort for women in the higher security facility. And there are times I thought that I was going to break under the pressure. I was on, you know, recorded phone calls to my parents. I don't think I can do this. It's too much. But I know that this isn't just about me. I have something to prove. I just don't know how I'm going to prove it. So I'm so glad about the growth that's been able to come from that. And I really must congratulate, you know, our prison system for being brave enough and taking a calculated risk to actively challenge that 14th Amendment that preserves the vestiges of slavery to pay incarcerated people nothing for their labor or slave wages, which is terrible. And that's not how you have a stable, sustainable life afterwards. That's not how you support a family. That's not how you survive in a capitalist economy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, one of the most glorious moments of being a part of all these movements is seeing organizations and partnering with them and working for them in a paid position at $25 an hour online, and having most of my favorite colleagues being formerly incarcerated and being people of color, being people who have been marginalized and targeted. And although I may suffer a low melanin deficiency, I know that currently I am considered under that 14th Amendment and used to make nothing as an incarcerated person because that was possible. They didn't have to. But I think that more people across society need to really promote the interests of gaining stability, having people be economically mobile, and not having these factionalized separations that create the us and thems and the alienation. And what you said about resistance was so beautiful, and I've been chewing on that this whole time, just kind of thinking about the truth of that. And I'm so glad you said it, because you see it in prison populations all the time, people who are resistant. And the way that that manifests is in self-destructive ways more often than not, in inertia, in unwillingness to really be present for programming to teach you how to deal with toxic relationships, how to repair your heart after heartbreak and grief and loss, how to recover from your mistakes and not sit in your ego trying to self-justify because you feel ganged up on and like everybody's telling you the problem ain't the problem, you're the problem. So I think that what we're doing here now in this room together, in our collective community and in our systems in Maine, that hopefully will translate and spread and inspire other facilities, organizations, and communities across the country, is to transform that, to burn it down and to build from the ashes, to do what we should have been doing and what will cause us all to be prosperous with empowered resistance, about creating opportunities, making sure that, I mean, I don't know if y'all know this, but roughly 95% of all incarcerated people will get out one day. The question is, what quality of person do you want returning to the community? Who do you want waiting your table at the restaurant? Who do you want standing behind you in line at the grocery store? Who do you want at the public park when you and your kids are there playing? You want someone who feels a responsibility to be a good citizen, a good member of the community, who feels loved by you and has love to give you, and feels that you are willing to receive that with open arms, not someone who feels like an othered enemy who has nothing to offer you.
Thank you. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, again, thank all of you for what you said. I think it's unfortunately a lot, you know, from state by state and across the country makes us similar. Our basic things like fear and ignorance. I mean, if anybody was paying attention to the numbers and statistics on the screen before we got started today, there's so many numbers and statistics and so much evidence that shows that if you do the things that, like education, like substance abuse, mental health training, all these different things. If you do those are what reduce recidivism. You know, there's so much evidence around what really works, but that doesn't fit the narrative for the people who generally are the ones making the decisions. You know, fear and ignorance, because they don't want you to see those numbers. They don't want you to see what actually works. They want to scare you into thinking that, you know, crime is the problem. The people are the problem, and the only way to solve it is locking people up. And that's similar across the country for the most part. I think what separates places, it's been really interesting. Like I said, working for JFF and being able to meet people from all around the country who are doing some incredible work on all different levels. I think what separates is, and Tori just touched on it, is bravery. It's the people who are willing to say, I'm not following that same bullshit lead of fear and ignorance. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to step outside of that, and I'm going to lead with compassion. I'm going to lead with my heart. I'm going to lead with common sense, and I'm going to lead with the actual data and statistics that back up the fact that if we do these things, that unfortunately people don't want to see people in prison have access to. If we do those, that's what's actually going to make society safe. That's what's actually going to bring people who are in prison outside of prison in the exact way that Tori just said. The people that you want to live next to, the people that you want standing behind you in line, the people that you want as your community members. You know, that's what's going to make people successful. And that's what I think is key, is having the people. You know, we say it, you know, and in some ways, you know, our commissioner, you know, he's taking those steps. We see commissioners, we see legislators, we see people in different positions all around the country who are willing to say, you know, kind of corny cliche, but like, enough is enough. Like, we're going to step outside of the norm here, and we're going to do what actually works. And then when you see it actually work, and you see recidivism rates going down, and it shouldn't just be about recidivism though, right? Like, we talk about recidivism, and what we should be talking about is recidivism with like an asterisk, as like, okay, the recidivism rate is low, but how are people functioning in society? It's not just enough to get out of prison and not go back to prison. We need people to get out of prison and function at a high level in society and be high level, you know, contributing members of society, not just that you didn't get arrested again. That's not enough to say what success is. And I think having the people in place and just needing more of it, needing more of those kind of brave souls to step up in positions of power and say, this is what we need. And it takes people like everybody sitting here today that's showing up, people that are watching this, to talk, you know, to take that, you know, initiative and be that person to step up and say, I'm going to take one of these leadership roles, to talk to the people in power, to you know, it's the old school thing, but like, write to your Congress people to talk about what needs to be done and what people really want to see in these places. Because unfortunately, to this day, it seems like what keeps us similar is that fear and ignorance of not knowing what actually works, and being willing to step out and do it. So, thank you. I don't know what's happened here on this meeting.
I'm also wondering, I don't know what happened. Did we run out of time? Huh? Well, I guess we went over time, but the school reminded us. Thank you. I was going to open up a question or two for the audience, but it seems like we ran out of time. I really want to say thank you to the panels for answering these questions, by taking this discussion. And again, thank you, and let's continue doing this work.
Thank you, La. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Shonda. Victoria.
Thank you so much.
Sean, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. That was a brilliant. Now we're going to go right into one of 3 breakout sessions. Whoa, we got little.
Ooh,
What?
mirror flip.
Yes, Brandon, of course. Are you able?
Every time. Yet.
Right? So what is the purpose of education? What is the purpose of Zoom? What is the purpose of our recovery program? We don't have parole, right? We're a truth and sentencing state. You do 80% minimum of your time. So we've got an earned living unit that's based off the Scandinavian model. And yeah, it's that white shit. It really is. But you know what's not? They're not coming home. My man's doing 40-something years. He's got a master's degree, has a 40-hour full-time job in the community, and the people he touches in the community tell you he's the best person they know. He's the hardest worker they know. And he's got 15 years left. For what? So for me, I always try to keep in mind, like, you know, also, first of all, we did that. The system didn't do that. We told them we didn't. Right? So we always got to remind everybody who's being incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, whatever, like, this, a progressive commissioner doesn't progress the system. We progress the system by letting them know this is the shit we need. Right? And this is the shit we deserve.
Amen.
And then we push the system to kind of correct itself. But like, I just want everybody in this room to know when you go home, we don't have parole. And as much as I consider our commissioner to be a friend of mine, and that's why I can call him out and say, you're going to parade our people across the state and talk about how great they are. They live in this unit that doesn't have a cop in it. They got stove tops and glassware. You're not going to see that shit at other prisons, right? But they're not coming home. So you're telling society, we got people who are living in a community, in a society with everything we can give them out here, full-time jobs, internet access, education, a fucking kitchen, and they can't come home. So that's what we need to, like, I just want that to be the next
Yes.
step. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's celebrate what we have in Maine, and let's do exactly what you're saying, though, right? Tell every single state, why are your residents not Zooming? Why are they not in college education programs? But also, when you're in Maine celebrating that, ask our administration, why aren't you letting people go?
Yeah.
Let them go.
Yay. We would never dream or be able to silence you, Brandon Brown. Not a damn one of us in this room. But we love you. I want to challenge you to go to one or three breakout spaces right now, or all three if you want to wander. They're amazing. One will be on this floor, and two will be on the second floor. So innovating rehabilitation, emphasizing alternatives to incarceration, transforming lives, and reducing recidivism through post-incarceration syndrome, PICS. Our guys right here, give it up. They're right here in rooms 109 and 110. So when you come out, grab a coffee, grab something to eat, and then head right in there. Or for those of you that want to head upstairs, you can find Defining Gender Justice. Yes, yes, with Linda Small, Mackenzie Kelly, Victoria Scott, and Darlene George. And then Youth Voices for Change with Swathi and Andre and our young people, also up in room 214. Grab a coffee, enjoy it, and we'll see you there.